Rain poured outside the old wooden hospital where screams of labor echoed through the thin walls. The girl, barely 18, gripped the bedframe as life tore through her body. No family waited, no one whispered comfort. She had been brought here by strangers, men who spoke of money, not mercy. When the baby's first cry filled the room, her tears mixed with sweat and fear. She wanted to hold her child, just once, but cold hands pulled the newborn away before she could even whisper a name. She screamed for her baby, but the nurse turned her face away. "It's not your choice," the woman said softly, guilt heavy in her eyes. The girl's body trembled, her soul hollowed in that instant. The men outside exchanged envelopes, their shadows falling long across the dim corridor. Minutes after giving birth, the mother became another transaction. Her baby was gone, and soon, she would be too. They dragged her from the bed before she could stand. Her legs wobbled, blood still on her gown, but they didn't care. A van waited outside with its doors already open. She didn't know where they were taking her, only that she had nothing left to lose. Every turn of the tires sounded like another goodbye. Her mind screamed for her child, but her voice had died long before her hope did. The van stopped in front of a large estate, a ranch on the edge of nowhere. Lanterns flickered, revealing rows of horses and men who looked like they belonged to no one. She was pushed out, her wrists still bound. An old man counted money under the porch light. "She's yours now," one of the traffickers said. The old man didn't look at her face, just nodded, as if buying a tool, not a person. That night, she sat in a cold barn, shivering in silence. She pressed her trembling hands to her heart and whispered to the stars, "Please, let my baby live. Even if I don't." The moon was her only witness, and the horses her only company. Somewhere beyond the hills, her child was breathing. That thought kept her alive when the rest of her wanted to disappear. Days turned to weeks. The man who owned her never spoke much. He didn't hurt her, but he didn't free her either. She worked the fields, fed the horses, and slept in a small shed. Every night she dreamt of her baby's face, though she had never seen it. She imagined eyes like hers, tiny hands clutching at warmth. She promised herself, if she ever got the chance, she'd find that child, no matter what it cost. One evening, as the sun bled orange across the horizon, she collapsed from exhaustion. When she woke, a stranger stood beside her, a tall man in a dusty hat, his blue eyes sharp but kind. "You're burning with fever," he said quietly. She flinched, expecting cruelty, but his hands were gentle. He gave her water, wrapped her in his coat, and stayed until her breathing steadied. "Why are you helping me?" she whispered weakly. He hesitated before answering. "Because no one helped my sister when she needed it." His words carried pain, the kind that never fully heals. She saw truth in his eyes. He wasn't like the others. But still, she didn't trust easily. Trust had been beaten out of her long ago. The next morning, the old man, the ranch owner, met with the stranger in hushed tones. Money changed hands again. She didn't understand what was happening until the stranger came to her with soft eyes and said, "You're coming with me." Her heart pounded. "Why?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Because I bought you. But not to keep you, to free you." She stared at him in disbelief. No one had ever done something for her without wanting something back. The words felt impossible. "Why would you spend money on someone like me?" she whispered. He looked at her and said simply, "Because you deserve to live your own life, not one that was sold." For the first time in months, hope cracked through her fear. He gave her a clean dress, a warm meal, and a small room in his farmhouse. She waited for him to change, to show cruelty, but he never did. He respected her silence, her distance. Some nights, she caught him watching the stars from the porch, as if speaking to ghosts only he could hear. Slowly, she began to heal. She helped in the kitchen, tended the garden, and sometimes laughed softly at his dry jokes. He never asked her about her past. He only said, "Everyone's got something they're trying to escape." She felt seen. Not as property, not as broken, but as a person again. But even in the calm, her heart ached for the child she'd lost. Every sunset reminded her of that tiny cry in the hospital. She tried to be grateful for freedom, but her motherhood haunted her. She prayed that somewhere, someone was holding that baby with love. And every time the man found her crying, he would quietly say, "Don't lose faith. Sometimes life circles back." Then one morning, he rode into town for supplies. When he returned, his face was pale. In his hands, he held a newspaper. "You need to see this," he said softly, placing it in front of her. Her eyes widened at the headline. There, in black and white, was a story about an illegal adoption ring broken by authorities, and a picture of a baby, with her eyes. Her hands trembled as she held the newspaper. The image blurred behind her tears. That was her baby. She would have known those eyes anywhere. The article said several infants had been rescued and placed under protective care, awaiting identification of their mothers. Her heart pounded so loud she could hardly breathe. Could this really be happening? Or was it just another dream waiting to break her heart again? The man watched her quietly, letting her absorb it. Then he said, "If that's your child, we'll find out. I promise." She shook her head, panic lacing her words. "They won't believe me. I have nothing. No papers, no proof." He took her hand gently and said, "Then I'll be your proof." Those words hit her harder than any kindness she'd ever known. Someone was finally standing beside her. They rode to town the next morning. She wore his sister's old coat, clutching the newspaper like it was life itself. At the county office, the clerk gave her a skeptical glance. But when she saw the girl's trembling hands and the man's steady voice, something softened. "The child's in foster care, 2 towns over," the clerk said. "You'll need a DNA test to confirm." Hope flickered again. Small, fragile, but alive. The test took days, each one longer than the last. She barely slept, pacing the porch while the man repaired fences or fed the horses, pretending not to watch her worry. On the 5th evening, a car arrived. A woman stepped out, holding a sealed envelope. The girl's breath caught in her throat as she tore it open. Her knees gave way before she could even read it out loud. The man caught her before she fell. "It's her," she whispered, sobbing. "She's mine." They drove together to the foster home, a small white house with a swing on the porch. The social worker greeted them kindly and led them inside. There, playing with blocks on the carpet, was the little girl. When she looked up and smiled, time stopped. The mother fell to her knees, tears flooding her cheeks. "Mama," the child said softly, as if she had always known. The room filled with the sound of 2 hearts finding their way back to each other. Even the man turned away, pretending to wipe dust from his eyes. The mother hugged her daughter for what felt like forever, memorizing her scent, her warmth, her heartbeat. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times, but reality was softer, gentler. It didn't erase the pain, but it made surviving it worth everything. The social worker smiled quietly. "She's been waiting for you," she said. Over the next weeks, papers were signed, and she moved into a small cottage near the man's ranch. He visited often, bringing toys, food, and sometimes just stories. The little girl adored him. She'd run to the gate shouting, "Uncle," and climb into his arms. The mother watched from the porch, her heart full but unsure of what she felt. Gratitude, yes, but something deeper too, something that scared her in a beautiful way. One evening, as the sun dipped low, she found him fixing the fence again. "You changed my life," she said softly. He looked up, smiled that quiet smile of his, and replied, "You did that yourself. I just gave you a place to start." She wanted to say more, to tell him how his kindness had given her a reason to breathe again, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she just said, "Thank you." But he shook his head. "Don't thank me for doing what's right." His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed emotion. "You and your little girl, you're the family my home forgot it needed." Her breath hitched. For the first time, she realized he wasn't just saving her, he was healing too. The silence between them felt warm, like peace finally had a place to rest. Seasons changed. The ranch bloomed again with laughter and light. The little girl learned to feed the horses and ride the gentle mare named Hope. The mother's smile grew freer with each sunrise. She planted flowers by the porch, each one named after a dream she thought she'd lost. The man would watch from afar, pretending not to notice how she'd filled every empty corner of his world. One night, under a sky heavy with stars, she found him sitting by the fence, guitar in hand. He was singing softly, a lullaby his sister used to hum. When he saw her, he stopped. You used to sing that to her, didn't you? She asked. He nodded. She didn't make it. That's why I couldn't let you stay where you were. Her eyes glistened. Then maybe, saving me was your way of saving her too. He smiled sadly. Maybe it was. The silence stretched, heavy but sweet. Then the little girl's voice called from the doorway, Mama, come sing with us. The man chuckled. Guess that's my cue. She joined them, her daughter curled between them, their voices weaving together under the stars. It wasn't the family she had imagined, but it was the one life had chosen for her. Months later, she stood on the porch watching her daughter chase butterflies across the fields. The man came up beside her, holding 2 mugs of coffee. You ever think about leaving? He asked softly. She shook her head, smiling. No, I think about how far I've come, and how I never want to lose what I found here. He smiled back, eyes glimmering. Then maybe, you should stay, for good. She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time, the ache inside her was gone. The pain that once defined her had turned into strength. The girl who was once sold had found a home, a family, and a love born not from ownership, but from freedom. As the wind danced through the fields, she whispered, I was sold once, but you bought me my life back. He smiled, pulling her close. No, he said, you took it back, and built a new one.